Why does it seem like no one knows where NASCAR is heading? If you guys haven't heard, there was a whole bunch of drama in NASCAR last week, which got me thinking about this sport as a whole. As a car enthusiast and somebody who really enjoys different sort of motorsports, I find myself looking at NASCAR last. I always have. I'm not really sure why. I used to watch NASCAR with my grandpa when I was a kid in the basement over in Chippewa Falls, but once I grew up, I just never got back into it. Actually, once my grandpa passed away, I never thought to turn the sport on ever again. And it got me questioning as to why.
There's the contact!
One of the most controversial finishes of the season.
NASCAR is a new topic for us, and I don't really know if you're gonna care too much about the sport, but I do wanna talk about what happened last week. I'm AlexMartini. Thank you so much for following and subscribing, jumping along. Thank you for watching the last video where we talked about the GR Corolla fire scandal that was happening. If you wanna watch that, it's up here, as well as kind of teetering off on what happened with Donut Media, which was also really cool. Last week, there was a race at the Cookout 400, which I can't keep up with all the NASCAR names. It was at Richmond, it was in Virginia, and it was actually a really great race. It's a 3/4 mile track, so it's not very big. 4 turns, you turn in one direction, NASCAR style, and it was actually pretty enjoyable. And they had to have a restart pretty much at the second to last lap of the race, and it was really close between 3 people: Dillon, Joey Logano, and Denny Hamlin. Now, 2 of those 3 people are in top running in the playoffs or the qualifier or the championship, pretty much the top of the totem pole in terms of points. And so it was really between 2 people, Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin. Now, how Dillon was in there, he was driving well, I guess, and following into the very last corner of this race, the very last moment of this race, Dillon went into Joey Logano and essentially just pit maneuvered him like GTA 4 style and ran him into a wall. And then after that, on top of that, Denny Hamlin was coming out of his corner turn onto the straight, and Dillon crashed him as well by hitting him at the same time. So in the matter of maybe 3 to 4 seconds, 2 of the leading cars in the NASCAR series had crashed because of Dillon. Now, this is not a new thing, and when the whole debacle, the whole controversy went live on the internet, everybody defended Dillon. They said Austin was driving like the Earnhardts, which, if you didn't know, Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Dale Earnhardt Jr., they're not exactly the safest drivers in the world. If you go back into the past of NASCAR, they were pretty scary people. I think Dale Earnhardt even had the nickname of the Intimidator. And so a lot of people thought that this was just good racing. It was just the way that things should be. And to anybody that's watching this that's not inside of the United States, that's watching globally, first off, thank you. But second off, NASCAR has this really weird energy to it. I think it's the cause of the problem of the sport in its entirety. It's racing, but it's also not, how do I say it? I don't want to say the word dirty, but it's grungy. You know, it's raw, it's very visceral, and it's not prim and proper in any way, shape, or form, and it never really has been. And so when this situation happened, a lot of people commended Austin, at least initially, for the fact that he managed to get the win out of the people that were in second and third. The problem led up to his spotter and the audio recording that came out after the fact.
Keep coming down, right in, come on. Yeah!
Where essentially his own team told him to wreck the car in front of him, do whatever he had to do to win, and Pop, apparently his father, told him that he didn't care what he had to do to get there. This is a big issue for a lot of different reasons. Sportsmanlike conduct, the sport as a whole, the general drama that's around the sport. You never really want to just pit somebody into a wall for the sake of winning a race, mostly because, you know, you could accidentally kill someone. But outside of that, NASCAR is known to have not penalized this sort of thing in the past. NASCAR has a super long heritage of whatever NASCAR seems to be. It was started on the backs of folks that used to just run moonshine illegally during the Prohibition eras. It was ran off of the fact that people used to go out into the Nevada desert and take the fenders off their cars and race them in a straight line for bragging rights. And this sport was based off of nothing more than pure testosterone and beer and whiskey, and the South is where this sport originated from. And in the last all-time posts of Reddit, top 10 posts about NASCAR have nothing to do with racing. 7 of them have to do with them banning the Confederate flag in 2020, and the other 3 have to do with Bubba Wallace having a noose in his garage or whatever that situation happened to be. You go into the drama of NASCAR, and it's almost not even the drama of racing, but it's the drama around the people and the ethical, moral things that sit around NASCAR that seem to be the issue. We're gonna get into that. This situation is wild though, because Joey Logano obviously was not very happy about this, and at the end of the day, when he went into pit row, he decided to do a huge burnout in front of Austin's team number 3, I think it is, pits. He got a $50,000 fine, mostly because he was also caught on video where a wife and a daughter were about to walk across the pit lane when that burnout happened, and she ran away. You could obviously tell that she was very scared for her life. This is just one of those weird things where I want to talk about it because I try to put this situation into another sport's life to see what would happen. NASCAR used to encourage the quote, bumping is racing, because if you did crash or if you did pit somebody, it was just kind of part of the sport. It was part of what made NASCAR NASCAR. And to be honest, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, to me, and I hate to say it, and I don't know if I should say it, but when I watch NASCAR, I feel like the closest and most riveting moments of the sport are when there is a crash or when there's about to be a crash. Because ultimately, the majority of the sport is going in the same direction with cars that look very similar with different livery kits on it, and that's really it. Even in the commercials of the sport, it's like 60% of the commercial are people crashing or about to get into fights, so I don't quite understand it. Now, afterwards, this whole situation has been reviewed by NASCAR. Essentially, the legislation and the powers that be say the guy that won, he's gonna be able to keep his points, but he's not gonna be entered into the playoffs. Additionally, Joey Logano got a $50,000 fine. Denny Hamlin is gonna continue to do Denny Hamlin shit, which is apparently just be the villain in NASCAR, but everybody loves the fact that he's got that persona, and life moves on. It took about 6 seconds for Dale Earnhardt to provide his opinion on it, because he's in all these podcasts and doing all these things, but he said that they weren't rough enough.
Was there any contact in that race? Like none. I don't think they're rough enough. What happened on that last lap was way too much, but everything else for 490 some laps was way too little.
But here's the key point. Here's the big reason why this little situation matters so much, in my opinion, to the entirety of NASCAR. It's drama. As of Wednesday at 4:49 p.m., NASCAR was trending at number 6 on Twitter. Okay, this whole thing was so huge. This one little incident was so huge that it became the 6th most talked about topic by 5 o'clock on Twitter. And by 7, it was the 4th most trending topic in the US as well. This is huge because outside of Kurt Busch getting arrested for a DWI, I don't necessarily hear about what's happening on in NASCAR. In 2023, if you take a look at Daytona's racing ratings and viewership, they had about 8.5 million people watching it at that time, which is down, not a little bit, but a lot of it. 19 million people watched that same exact race in 2006. The average viewership for NASCAR races has declined as well. You have 3 million viewers on average in the 2023 season as compared to 7 million in the mid-2000s. These are just facts. These are not opinions. This is just the way that NASCAR is trending. And so the biggest thing that you're hearing is it's decreasing, it's going away. It's not as popular as it once was, but it's got the NASCAR Netflix series. It has drama. What is it missing? What is going on with the sport? In F1, there's no shortage of drama, and you guys can let me know what type of motorsport you watch. When I go and I learn and I see what's happening in Formula One, there's a whole lifestyle that surrounds Formula One. There's a whole second layer of the sport, which is the team drama, the principles, the tracks, the track conditions, the FIA, everything. Every single element of Formula One is documented, discussed. The rule book is 600 pages long, and everything about it seems to have a story or an opinion or a way that you can attract an audience, both at the high level with something like Drive to Survive and something as microscopic as the most infatuated Formula One enthusiast could possibly have. NASCAR doesn't have that. NASCAR has, every once in a while, a crash occurs, drama spikes up, it becomes this huge thing, and then it goes away. And NASCAR doesn't do anything with it. And I want NASCAR to win. And you should want NASCAR to win too, right? I mean, it's America's pastime. This is and was America's largest sport. It was the most active. It was the most exciting. It was the loudest. It was the most incredible thing that you could do was watch NASCAR at least 20 years ago. And it kind of sucks that it's going away. The drama is the only thing that seems to be keeping it alive. I don't ever see myself actively going out to look at NASCAR unless there's drama, unless there's problems going on. It's not a matter of what driver we like the most in NASCAR. It seems to be what driver do we hate the most in NASCAR. Everything on Reddit is more about who we like the least, but we'll make accommodations if they say something that's edgy and controversial. It's not about just being a good driver. It seems to be it's about how much can you stand out with edgy middle schooler statements on Twitter. And it's really hard to associate yourself, or at least for me, with a driver in NASCAR. But I'm not seeing anything that's essentially aligning with the way that I see the world and that I see the motorsport. It's just angry old men saying angry old things about angry old traditional values and angry old people causing drama on the internet. Whereas when you go and you watch another motorsport, you're inspired to be like these people. You're inspired to be like Verstappen. You're inspired to be like a Lewis Hamilton. There's an allure to be more with that. Outside of just the driving element of the sport, Formula One has encapsulated this thing of making people want to be like the driver just as much as they want to be watching the sport and enjoying the sport. Who are your favorite drivers? Like, who are your favorite all-time drivers? And it's always the same people. It's always Dale Earnhardt Sr. It's always Richard Petty. It's always Jimmy Johnson. It's the same group of people. And these are all people that are like over here. They're a generation past. And it's really sad because you start talking about the current drivers. And sure, there's a couple out there that I think really take the popularity key to number one, but it doesn't have that same feeling. The drama of NASCAR is, in my opinion, what NASCAR is right now. Because without it, this sport specifically doesn't seem to have a whole lot of excitement. There's nothing worse than being in something that you love and just constantly reading about how things are bad. It's like I'm constantly just reading a continuous old man 30 years ago Fox News article where it's just everything is bad and everything is failing and everything is going wrong and it's somebody else's fault. And it makes it really hard to love NASCAR. I loved hearing this drama because for the very first time, it seems like NASCAR made the right decision by revoking the playoffs. It seems like it actually drew up a ton of noise and got a ton of people like me and hopefully you excited about something that was happening over there at an event that's called the Cookout 400, one of the 9 million event names that NASCAR is. But what is NASCAR going to do with it? What is going to happen after this? How can NASCAR actually grow its viewership base to be more than just this core audience of 35 to 55-year-old males in the South that, unfortunately, 4 years ago, the biggest news in the entire world, the most controversial thing that NASCAR could ever do is ban the Confederate flag. That's wild to me. It's 2024. That is just absolutely insane to me that it was 4 years ago that this sport was talking about the Confederate flag. It was 4 years ago that they were talking about this new situation in Bubba Wallace's garage. This is the kind of drama that NASCAR is dealing with that's less than 5 years old outside of racing incidents like this. And I want you to ask yourself that if you look at any other motorsport that's out there globally, and you look at the most exciting, most controversial news to come from the sport, what is it about? There are things that are controversial in a sport that are controversial for the sake of the sport's growth, and there are things that are controversial for the sake of like an ethical or moral thing that are associated with the sport. And that second thing, it's the Dakota, what was the guy that got caught dogfighting that was really good? He was Michael Vick. It's the situations that are like Brett Favre going from Green Bay Packers to the Vikings, and it's Vic fighting dogs in his spare time. Like, those two are not the same. One is good for the sport and one isn't good for the sport. And what NASCAR is going through right now and the occasional drama that's around the track, that is good for the sport. And NASCAR, in my opinion, needs way more drama, because trying to understand NASCAR as it sits right now is terribly difficult. The amount of series names, the amount of drivers, the numbers, what the points are, all of it. The decision making and the rule book seems like it's a back of an 8.5 by 11 sometimes. That's completely dependent upon whether NASCAR wants more ratings on TV or less ratings on TV. And I love NASCAR. I want to love NASCAR, and I think we should try to love NASCAR. But the drama that surrounds it seems to be the only thing that's pretty exciting about it. But you guys will have to let me know what your thoughts are. We hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts below, and of course, thank you so much for watching. I'm AlexMartini. If you want to tune in next weekend, we'll be talking about something else, or if you have a topic you think we should talk about, you can actually shoot over to me on a message over at alex.martini with 2 underscores on Instagram. NASCAR, I want to love you. You say some really weird shit when you're drunk, and it makes it really hard to go to the bars with you. And I feel like we're gonna get in a fight constantly if I tell somebody that you're with me. We gotta fix that, okay? New brand, new you, new exciting boo-boo, you know, maybe let's Confederate flag behind us. Let's get it further away from us. Let's maybe, I don't know, do some dances on TikTok or something.